Hey guys, Mike here. So today's cult classic review is 2013's The Wolf of Wall Street, starring Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort. In The Wolf of Wall Street, we follow stockbroker Jordan Belfort to his highs as wealthy stockbroker, to his lows of crime and corruption, and so we have The Wolf of Wall Street. So guys, this is a movie in the series that before watching and reviewing it today, I had actually seen it before, quite a few times to be fair. I absolutely love this movie, though my only problem with it being in this series is it old enough to be considered a cult classic? Granted, there's no real hard definition on how old a movie needs to be before it's considered a cult classic, but I guess the standard is at least 6 to 7 years, seeing as it's made it onto the poster. But in any case, it's on the poster, so let's talk about it. So, what did I think of The Wolf of Wall Street? I gotta say, this is probably Leonardo DiCaprio's best performance that he's ever given. And honestly, it's a shock how he didn't win an Oscar for this performance. For the few of you out there who probably didn't know about this, for a long time, there was this meme going around saying that Leonardo DiCaprio doesn't have an Oscar. And it really started to take flight after he didn't win for The Wolf of Wall Street. Now, honestly, this meme was probably going on for quite a while before he actually was nominated and didn't win for this movie, but this is when I really started to notice it. And honestly, every single one that I saw was really funny. But then, when he did win for The Revenant, these memes obviously went away. And I've said it before loads of times on my channel, but honestly, Leonardo DiCaprio won for the wrong movie. His performance in that movie and the movie itself were far from amazing. Not terrible, just not exactly anything impressive. The Wolf of Wall Street, on the other hand, just everything he puts into this role is just incredible. His dramatic beats, his comedic timing, his physicality, everything that he does in this role is just amazing. Honestly, the scene where he basically becomes paralyzed from all the lewds he has was just enough to win him an Oscar in my eyes. Because it was just such an incredibly acted scene, and it's probably one of the most standout moments in the entire film. But honestly, the person who I honestly think is the best performance that they've ever given in their entire career is Jonah Hill in this. And he as well got nominated for an Oscar, but again, also lost. Because up until this point, Jonah Hill was just known as the fat guy in comedies. And when he was in The Wolf of Wall Street, he was known as the fat guy in a Scorsese movie. But that's not taking anything away from his performance. Jonah Hill as well was excellent. But really, we all know the biggest thing that we have to thank The Wolf of Wall Street for: giving the world Margot Robbie. The years since this movie's come out, Margot Robbie has become a household name. Though not every single movie that she's done has become a financial or critical hit, you cannot deny the amount of talent that this woman has. And she has received a couple of Oscar nominations since this movie, and I have a lot of faith that at some point in the future, Margot Robbie will win an Oscar. Or maybe she won't, but you just cannot take it away from how much of a talented actress she is. And is probably one of the best actresses working today. And just everyone else in this movie are just excellent as well. There are so many talented writers, actors, directors that star in this movie, and they each have such interesting roles and you just really remember them all. And they all just add a little something to this movie, whether it's an intense performance or a hilarious performance, everyone brings something to the table. I think one of the fairest criticisms that's put to this movie is the fact that it glorifies the life of a corrupted stockbroker. And upon first glance, it definitely does that. With all the drugs, sex, money, anyone would probably want this life. But honestly, you can't take The Wolf of Wall Street on face value. Because sure, on the surface, it looks like that it glorifies the life of these horrible scumbag people. Because at its heart, The Wolf of Wall Street is a story about corruption, and pretty much how anyone is susceptible to it. So by making their lives seem absolutely desirable, it makes the audience think maybe I might fall to the same kind of corruption that they did. And it makes them want to live their lives as well. But as well, if you fly too close to the sun, you will get burnt. And that's what I love about this character. Ultimately, the thing that destroys him is his arrogance and his pride. Because there is a point in the film where he could have just walked away, accepted that he had a victory, and just ultimately got one up on everyone who doubted him or called him a criminal, which obviously he is. But he makes a stupid, impulsive decision to stay on and further go down the rabbit hole, which ultimately ends up being his demise. As well, if I haven't already said it, this is easily one of my favourite movies that Martin Scorsese has directed. Now, Martin Scorsese is one of the most influential directors working today, and though I don't tend to agree with all of his opinions on movies, especially the Marvel movies, where he basically just describes them as roller coaster rides, you cannot deny the sheer influence and talent that this man has. And The Wolf of Wall Street is one of those movies that really shows it. And the runtime and pacing for this movie is very interesting because this is a nearly 3-hour-long movie and it feels like it. But honestly, in other movies, when this can seem like a bit of a drag, this definitely works in The Wolf of Wall Street's favour. Because the movie's so insane, ridiculous, engaging, and deep and interesting, it really holds your attention. And honestly, it just makes you want to have more. Honestly, they could have added another hour onto this movie and I still would have wanted more. For me, one of the craziest things about this movie is that on IMDb, this movie is not labelled as a comedy, and that just seems really odd to me because this movie is just absolutely insanely ridiculous. It's just insanely funny as well. Though a lot of the comedy does come from the overall outrageous nature of the entire film. And as you're watching, you think, how are they going to top this one? And then they just manage to one-up themselves, and you think the next scene, how could it get even more crazy? And then they manage to top themselves again. And I think because the movie comes across as so funny, is the reason why a lot of people think that they glorify the life of a stockbroker. But realistically for me, I think the comedy just makes the movie even more engaging. So guys, would I consider The Wolf of Wall Street a personal cult classic, and would I recommend that you guys should see it? The only reason I probably wouldn't consider this movie a cult classic is because I don't know if it's necessarily old enough to be considered one. But aside from that, I would absolutely consider this movie a personal cult classic. I love every second about this movie, the performances, the comedy, the drama. Everything about this movie is just excellent. A majority of the actors in this give the performances of their career. And for me, this is one of Scorsese's best films. But do I think you guys should see this one? Absolutely. If you haven't already seen The Wolf of Wall Street, then you absolutely need to see this film. It's got a little bit of something for everyone, and I think that you'll enjoy this one. But as well, if you don't like movies where they tend to glorify horrible people, then I don't think this is the kind of movie for you. But honestly, if you're willing to not take this movie on face value, then I would definitely recommend that you should watch it. Okay guys, that's my cult classic review of The Wolf of Wall Street. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Whatever you think, drop it in the comments below. Until next time, I've been Michael. See ya!